Alright, so this weekend I was able to see a little movie called A Monster Calls. Now this movie was released in 2016 limitedly so that it could make an Oscar run this year, but for me, this is a 2017 movie and it was a very good way to start the year. This movie really surprised me, and that is mainly because the marketing was so tiresome for this movie. I could not believe how hard they are pushing for this movie to be the kind of melodramatic, sappy, grandma, mom kind of movie that, you know, you go see and your mom/grandma comes out and says, "That was just so lovely." And while it certainly is that,
Don't touch anything.
Too young to be a man.
I no longer see you.
the thing that differentiates it between movies of the same style is that it's actually good. It's actually well made. And that falls a lot on director J.A. Bonnet, Bonnet, Let's start off by talking about the story. The story is very simple. The story is a very standard tale, actually. It's a coming-of-age story. It follows a young boy that goes through school. He goes through being at home with no dad, and his mom is getting sick. It's a very standard story about a kid becoming a man, kind of thing. And the human drama in this movie, there's two real parts to this movie. There's the human drama, and that is the weakest part of this movie. We'll probably get into that a little bit more later, because I want to focus on positives right now. But the second part of this movie is with the actual monster. And the monster is this big Treebeard-esque character voiced by Liam Neeson. And holy crap, this is probably my favorite Liam Neeson role I've seen in a long time. He is so great as the monster in this movie. He plays it with such charisma and character that you can't help but kind of want the monster in your own life. Like, he's just great. He's so great in this role. But that's getting a little off topic. The monster and the boy's interaction make up about 40% of this movie, I'd say. And their interactions are what really drive this movie. And their interactions come down to this. The monster comes for the first time. And it's a really great sequence where things are rolling and it's kind of that classic, creepy, tense kind of vibe. And the monster's breaking out of a tree and it's filmed very low angle and shot like it's some kind of horror movie. And he comes to this boy and says, "I'm gonna tell you 3 stories and then you will tell me your truth." And he goes away. And then throughout the movie, we see the boy start to learn and grow from the stories that this Treebeard character is telling him. And that is what really drives this movie, because the human drama, again, is just very bland. Until the end 20 minutes or so, the human drama is the worst element to this film. Every time that it came up, I just wanted to see it go back to the monster and the boy's interactions, because the stories that the monster tells and the way that they're animated and the way that they're shown to the audience and visualized to the audience is breathtaking in more than one sequence, in more than one way. Some of the sequences are animated, and they're animated incredibly well. Some of the sequences are in live action, but kind of like they're in a painting, which was really neat. It's a very relatable movie in the sense that everyone's kind of gone through that awkward phase where we're too old to be a child, but we're too young to be considered a grown-up. And that's what's very relatable about this movie. Obviously, it's not the first movie to do this, but it's the first movie to tell it completely from the perspective of this kid. And that's why this movie succeeds over many other coming-of-age stories. Because we never ever leave the kid's side. Never once does the movie go away from the child to tell a different story, or to tell the story of how the mom got cancer, or to tell the story about why his grandpa is gone. It just shows them to you to make you think about them. It never explicitly says that his mom has cancer. But we can reasonably infer it because she starts losing her hair, she starts getting very skinny and looking more like a corpse, to be honest. And that is what this movie does well. That is why this movie is better than a typical coming-of-age story. Because it doesn't ever give you exposition. It doesn't give you exposition that you don't need. It says, here is what this boy is, and this is the world around him. And you can build the world yourself, or you can choose to just watch the movie. And that is why it's really good. That's why I really liked it. It helped me get more invested in what was happening, because I could see everything and how it affected this boy, specifically from his perspective. And I could see the world around him and how the world around him was changing him and how he didn't want to focus on it. He wanted to get through it without really paying attention. And that is why the monster comes. The monster comes to tell him that it's okay to take in things, and it's okay to be honest about things, and it's okay to take life head on. And that's ultimately what the movie's about. And the special effects were really outstanding. There was great uses of miniatures and live action and visual effects and practical effects, and all of it was seamlessly integrated into the movie to where most of the time, 99% of the time, you could not tell which was which. And that is why this movie succeeded in capturing this boy's world. It succeeds in engaging its audience and making you feel like you're a part of this world. But I would be lying if I say this movie wasn't perfect. It's good. It's a solid way to start 2017. That being said, it still is a very standard tale. The human drama is just boring. It's so dull. You get a grasp of these characters and you kind of understand where they're coming from, and that makes things a little bit more interesting. But everything that happens feels so melodramatic, and everyone feels so over the top and exaggerated, from the performances to the characters. And that could be to help other audiences kind of grasp what's happening. But in a movie that built this world without telling you anything about it, it feels very phony to have these over-the-top and exaggerated moments, and it feels very lost in a movie like this. It's very standard. It's a very standard coming-of-age story. And because of its standardness, you know exactly where it's going to go from frame one, and then it goes exactly there. And it's frustrating, again, to see a movie that's so well written and so well realized take a generic, formulated path. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating to think about because everything else is so well done. It doesn't really last for too long because the last 20 minutes, the movie really brings it home with some really, really touching and powerful sequences of emotion that you actually can get invested in without it feeling manipulative. So overall, I really like the movie. I think it is solid. Well realized, it's well crafted, it doesn't bore you with exposition, it's well paced, the acting is all pretty good if over the top, and the special effects, practical effects, miniatures are all incredibly well spliced into live action. So I could say that this movie is a 7 out of 10 for me. It's solid, go see it. It's a perfect movie for families, for moms, for grandmas, all of that. But so, that's all I gotta say about that.